Hello, my name is Garnet Dupuis and I'm the inventor of the NeuroVIZR. I'm very happy that we have a chance for the first time to offer you a structured course, a way that we can learn together. And let's call this basic concepts. You know, we have to have a kind of a collection of ideas, a little bit of vocabulary. Otherwise, if we start talking about things that seem too complicated without a reference, it's not going to work. So this is a beautiful course in my mind because we're looking at beautiful ideas, and I have followed this honestly, for a long time. I can be romantic to say my whole life, but it's been a long time that I've been interested in consciousness, interested in methodologies, interested in techniques, interested in technologies. How can we do something good that is also enjoyable? Because sometimes things that are good aren't necessarily that attractive, like, how you want to eat, I know. Anyway, so here we are. We have a course. And we'll be going in through the course step by step at the level of basic concepts. So you can take notes. We're giving you notes. Here's some videos. Let's see how we do. So let's start. It might seem like a slogan. Maybe it is. I like alliterations. E-E-E. What do we have? Engage. Enrich. Enjoy. Engage, enrich, enjoy. I've said some number of times that we could take any one of these and talk for a whole day about it. It's not going to be a whole day, don't worry. But let's have a look at engage, enrich, and enjoy, because that's how the course is structured. That we're going to be spending time taking apart all the different things that make engage fascinating, effective, sometimes beautiful. And then the enrich, and then finally the enjoy. So what we're doing right now is a basic introduction, kind of warming things up, because right under engage, enrich, enjoy are some other really important concepts. The concept of neuroplasticity, the concept, brand new, brain signal variability. We're going to be taking apart each of these as we unfold. So to hopefully build idea on idea and on idea. So we'll be moving next into the first segment of engage. Get ready. Let's start to unbox engage. What does that mean to engage? As a matter of fact, we'll get into it a little bit further by a comparison, but we call the NeuroVIZR experience brain engagement. Brain engagement. So there's something about that word engage that has to be really important, because that's what we call what we do, brain engagement. Okay. Other than 1,000 things that happen in anybody's life, the thing that really stimulated me some few years ago was the big change in medical science in terms of the adult brain. I don't know if you had ever heard, but the idea was that once you're an adult, your brain cells, your neurons, just sort of die off, and you get less and less and dumber, and then you die. Something like that. Well, apparently, although that's still a lot of truth, the concept of neuroplasticity is a massive game changer. And this should be a wisening element, that as much as we are based in science, science itself is dedicating to prove that science can be wrong. So science is a process of discovery, position, but also review and change. And that was the big issue. Is that, oh my God, the adult brain can change, but not just by degrading, it can change by upgrading. That the neuroplastic process is something in different ways valuable and accessible throughout our entire adult life. That was 180, well, about 150 degrees different than the old position. So when I got to reflecting on that, like a lot of us have, I thought, I know a lot about different kinds of technologies. I'm good at designing. And I thought, what can we do now with non-drug, non-invasive, wearable, personal technology that could actually take advantage of the fact that I can keep my brain going. You know, one of the things that we say here in the company is, whatever the state of your brain today, it can be better tomorrow. Whatever the state of your brain today, it can be better tomorrow. Now, I'm not saying how much better. I'm not trying to play magic here, but it can be better. And we've learned this generally about the body as a whole, the soma. Guess what it's called? Exercise. That actually you can improve to some degree the well-being, the functionality of your body by doing some kind of structured exercise. It doesn't have to be a lot. Hey, and guess what? This shouldn't be a shocker. The brain is physical, just like the rest of your body. Just about everything you want to know about your brain, without the mysterious, trillion neuron thing, is the fact that it's physical. Your brain is as physical as your heart, as your spine, as your hamstring muscle. So there's an awful lot that we know about how to help the body that is also true to help the brain. So how do you exercise the brain? Well, the process begins by engaging it. You have to get the attention. You have to have some kind of activity, some kind of stimulation that brings into focus this incredible conscious power called attention. Maybe later we'll talk about psychoactive agent. So right now, just sort of put it there, but like a parrot on my shoulder, I can say that attention, conscious state of attention, is likely to be the primal psychoactive agent, the primary thing that gets the brain working. Because when you think about it, and frankly, I've been fascinated my whole life as to what do pain and pleasure have in common? What do pain and pleasure have in common? I'll use the example, I've given it before, I'm slightly embarrassed, but here we go. Here's my example. If I took an ice pick, if you don't even know what that is, if I took a dagger, a sharp knife, and I began jamming it several times in your left knee, or, this is the embarrassing part, if somehow, it's not like I did it, but somehow you had this incredible orgasm in your left knee, what do those two things have in common? Your attention will go to your left knee. Like, why? Why do we have to, why does it work like that? What's the power of attention? That power is somehow a neurological, biochemical trigger. It's an accelerator. It's I don't know what you want to call it, but it seems that attention is really critical. That if everything is going well and suddenly you get a pain in right below your rib cage on the left side, what happens? You become aware of the left side under your rib cage. Your attention goes there. So this issue of engaging attention is the beginning of profound biological processes, and it is one of the most important elements of any process that can take to advantage neuroplastic change. Neuroplastic change requires the focus of attention. So, engage. Neuroplasticity, two words really, neuro, meaning nerves, nerve cells, neurons, and plastic. Well, wait a minute. I don't like plastic, that's artificial. I want bamboo or hemp or cotton or something. Okay, plastic is from a Greek word that goes along with another word that's familiar, elastic. elastic, plastic. Okay. I don't speak Greek, by the way, but I think it's true. Okay. So what's elastic? Let's start with that one. Because people say, you know, somebody said about plastic surgery, oh, it's because you put plastic in the faces. No, 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 no. It's not about the material of plastic. It's about a behavior. So we're not putting plastic in the brain about neuroplasticity. What are we talking about? Let's start with elastic. You can imagine an elastic band, a rubber, right? Okay. A and B, I apply a force and I stretch B away from A. I take the force away, whoop, B goes back to A, just like an elastic band. Okay. Plastic. A, B, apply a force, B moves away, take the force away, B starts to go back, but not all the way. That's plastic. So elastic is a full return. Plastic is only a partial return. You can mold it. You can change it. Like when you stretch your hamstring muscle. It's not really the muscle you're stretching. It's the fascia. It's the connective tissue. And if you apply the force and you stretch, and then you take the force away, that fascia goes back, but a couple of millimeters, not all the way. That's why if you stretch it day by day, it gets longer and longer and longer because of the plastic response. There's still some elastic, but it's not complete. So neuroplasticity means that there is a way to get your brain cells, your nerves, the neurons, to begin to change the shape and therefore their behavior, that you can bit by bit make a change, and that change in the beginning is short term, but after a while it becomes longer term and longer term. We'll break neuroplasticity down a little bit more, but that's the basic thing, that our brain has a neuroplastic capacity. So then you think, well, I get the concept, how do I do it? What method or technique or technology can do that? Guess what? Light and sound, properly crafted, can do it. There's the NeuroVIZR. Okay, let's talk more about brain engagement. We already did a little. Some of you, maybe many of you, have also heard about this thing called brain entrainment. Entrain. Engage, entrain. Brain engagement, brain entrainment. It sounds kind of similar. Are they similar? Not really. Sort of. I'll explain. You know, we began in our early science to understand a lot of things about our brain in the 1920s. This guy named Hans Berger, skipped the whole story, but he's the first one that was able to measure electric sourced brain waves. You know, alpha, beta, all these things. Okay. It wasn't long after that, because you understand the technology was really poorly developed at that time, very limited. No digital, nothing like that. So the tools themselves created part of the problem. Keeping that in mind. So it wasn't long after that I'll say scientists began to notice something, that when you gave a particular repetitious signal to the brain, either with light or sound or even electrical pulsing, that the brain would start to follow along, like the way that your foot taps to music. So that's called the frequency following response, FFR, frequency following response. And guess what? The brain will do it passively. You don't have to pay attention. Oh, there's that attention thing. You don't have to pay attention in order for the brain to do that. When it starts, if the signal is clear and repetitious, it's got to be clear, it's got to be repetitious. If you've got a lot of waves and Celtic harps and whales and the signal, you know, it may not be as effective. That's another story. But if it repeats, the brain will begin to fire at that rate. It's in two parts. Depending on the signal quality, it takes about 6 or 8 minutes of what's called superimposition. The signal is like tapping the brain itself. The signal is doing it. This kind of overpowering is a little bit dramatic, but it's just called a superimposition. And then the brain will say, oh, now I got it, and the brain will continue for a period of time. So it's called brain entrainment. It was called the frequency following response in the 30s. The equipment was not very good. Everybody forgot about it for the most part. You just had spinning wheels and things. It was really pretty primitive. In the 60s, mid-late 60s, it was rediscovered and was dubbed brain entrainment as a process. So frequency following response. It is a passive response of the brain to a signal. And what it does is it coaxes the brain into a particular state. It's a confined state. So if you're pulsing at 12 hertz, the brain will try to go there at 12 hertz. Not the whole brain, but a lot of the brain. Okay, what do? Brain engagement. But we don't do that. I'll say that to begin with. Our interest is not in coaxing the brain into a static, confined state. Our goal is to allow the brain to make changes when the changes are needed. We have a different goal. It's a different purpose. What we're looking for is something that needs the brain attention. So right there, brain entrainment, the brain is passive, it follows the signal. It's a frequency following response. Brain engagement, sorry, we need your attention. It's not going to happen without you. Please join us here. And what we do is we exercise elements in the brain so that it's more like learning how to dance to the song instead of just tapping your foot passively to it. So this is more about brain dance instead of foot tapping as a kind of an automatic reaction. It's also true to say that brain entrainment is frequency-centric. It centers on the particular frequency that has to be repetitive. You know, if the beat keeps on changing, how can you dance? If you keep on changing the song just when you're starting to dance and it changes, what's going on? We use what's called dynamic frequency response, not frequency following response, a dynamic response to the frequencies. Brain entrainment is frequency centric. Brain engagement is relationship centric. It's about the relationships of change between frequencies, not the repetition of a single frequency. So bit by bit, you'll appreciate more and more how neuroplasticity, the ability for the brain to change, short and long term, and brain engagement, the concept of a dynamic frequency response. We're doing something different, and it's really good. In neuroscience, there are a bunch of basic concepts, and one of the kind of really important but also kind of easy to understand in the beginning is this thing called top-down, bottom-up. Or maybe I should say bottom-up and top-down. It's a little bit like yin and yang, meaning they're actually inseparable, but conceptually you can talk about one and talk about the other one. There's a lot of deep theory about this because the principle is found everywhere. It's in economic theory, it's in physics. It's a very big idea when you have a more complex system. Okay, bottom up is sometimes called outside in. Bottom up essentially is the information that comes into us from the environment. It's coming, you could imagine, outside to in or from bottom up. It also is the environment of your own body. You know, the feeling of your stomach or, that you have a muscle cramp. These are coming up and into the central nervous system from the peripheral nervous system, basically. That's the bottom up. Another way of characterizing bottom up is called present moment. It's the right now. Right now. Right now. So what's top down? Top down, these are true enough as examples or analogies to be functional, but maybe not exactly true. The bottom up gives us, hey, this is what's happening. And the top down builds a library of impressions. By the time they're built, it's called the past. So things that happened from the bottom up of significance or even curiosity get stored for reference. And the top down, the top also builds a gamble of the future. So it makes predictions. The past predicts the future. It is a true virtual reality. The top down has no direct relationship with what is happening right now. That's like, wow. That's a wow. So, it's a whole course unto itself. I believe that we'll be going next course into basic science, where this is basic concept. So, if something seems really delicious and juicy, but I only give you a taste, there'll be more coming in the next course. I love the science part, personally. So, they're inseparable, but one will dominate over the other in a method. The brain engagement process, the NeuroVIZR experience, is primarily bottom up. We're basically kind of tricking you into the present moment with your attention. The potency of attention and presence is incalculable. I mean, it's the basis of most of the meditation techniques and psychedelic processes and all kinds of things. So, not good or bad, brain entrainment, remember the first one, is primarily top down. Brain engagement is primarily bottom up. So, stay tuned. Later in the course, or the next course, we'll go into it because it is really dramatically interesting and important. When you look at the NeuroVIZR working, you see some flashing lights, and typically the person's wearing headphones or earbuds. We will get more into the soundscape aspect maybe when we talk about Enrich. But right now, still in Engage, let's understand something that may not be evident. The physical design of the NeuroVIZR optimizes what's called the visual field. The distance, where is up, where is down. At a certain point, I don't see my finger. At a certain point, I don't see this finger. There's a bottom-up limit. And also when I go peripheral, like where did it go? This is called the visual field. There are some devices with flickering light that you position some distance away and it floods you. Then you've got some that would use like glasses like mine, where it's right and you have something here and something here. We're different than that. We've got this at first like, why is it like that? Okay, our light signaling has three simultaneous dynamics: macro, meso, micro. Macro, meso, micro. The macro refers to where in the visual field is the light. And is it moving in the visual field? So if I have something in my upper right corner of vision, or if I have something that's exactly in the middle, or I have something that is only down here, that creates a kind of a disposition in the central nervous system. It's very rich in information. Some of the most advanced biofeedback processes right now are just looking at eyeball activity. Are the eyeballs moving this way or that way? Is the pupil dilating or constricting? It gives actually potentially equal or even better information than EEG. How your eyes are moving. So in our macro, it isn't just where is it in the visual field, but is it moving? Is it going up? Is it going down? Is it going to the left? Is it going to the right? Is it spiraling clockwise? Is it spiraling counterclockwise? This is all potent information. Most of our brain is devoted to vision. It's like, wow, really? Yeah, most. So there's something about not only what you're seeing, but where in the visual field are you seeing it? You know, I've been in meditation practices throughout my adult life. I'll make it very quick, but you know, conventionally, and this is very typical in what we'll call the yogic science. If you're sitting, either eyes closed or slightly open or open, and you start to get dozy, dreamy, you start to kind of dumb down, roll your eyes up, and that will increase attention, activity. It alerts you by looking up. Not with your head, just rolling your eyes up. Then, if you get, you know, super active thinking, they say, look down at the ground. Just by holding the position of eye, rolling your eyes, not your head, just your eye position up or down works in the autonomic to either help to stimulate or to sedate. So we have macro. That's built in. You'll notice sometimes, you'll see that it's going this way or it's doing, you know, like what's happening? It doesn't, that's not even what the flicker rate is. It's not the meso, it's not the micro, that's just macro. Meso is not hertz, fractions of seconds, it's about the BPM, beats per minute. It's a lot of what we feel. The meso creates pulsing that harmonizes with organ rates, breathing rates, heart rate, peristalsis, cerebrospinal fluid. You know, BPMs are the signals that make us want to dance. They're more somatic than cranial. So we've got macro, we've got different times when we have mesopulsing, then we've got the micro flickering rates. And the flickering rates are not just whether they're on or off, it's highly complex, but I guess the main point I want to make is we have triple signal dynamics. To the best of my knowledge, no other device uses this. For example, if you have it far away, the field of vision thing is useless. I tried it, it doesn't work. And if you've only got right here, then like lights in my glasses, like we did forever before, some still do, then it has no dimensional relationship to the field of vision. It's abstract. So, triple signal dynamics, NeuroVIZR, macro, meso, micro.